In the brief time I have here, I cannot even begin to cover the total cost of freedom. I need to say some of the things I'm not going to cover, but the greatest cost of freedom, of course, is the cost in blood sacrifice. Through the years of over 1 million souls, Americans, who have given the last full measure of devotion, some of them, I'm sure the more recent ones, are in our own families. And to them, I salute their sacred memory. A little later, I'm going to mention the vigilance that is required from us, because the natural course of government, any government, is to grow. Bureaucrats like to grow, people with power like to have more, and without a vigilant population, government constantly grows. It's only really been recently where the government has, and I want to say this, both parties, you look at history, both parties have grown government pretty consistently. It's only been recently, with the vast acceleration of that growth, that finally we, the American people, have been jolted to wakefulness. And what we found out is the good news is we can make a difference. Amen? We can make a difference. Through tea parties and through town meetings, it looks like we might have a chance to beat this assault on our freedom, at least this present one. The bad news is, folks, we tend to go to sleep. And when we go to sleep, our freedoms fly away. I speak today not as a partisan, but as an American by birth and by faith. I say faith because America is not founded on ethnicity or race or even common history. It is founded on a creed articulated in our Declaration that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain and inalienable rights, and at the center of those rights is freedom, liberty. Like our founders, I grasp that freedom is not a human invention, but a divine gift. Freedom of choice is what makes us different and lifts us above the animals, because only people who are free to love their family, free to love their neighbors, and free to love their nation. It is our glorious trait, but it is also extremely dangerous, because when we make bad choices, catastrophe happens. I want you to know that way back in the 1700s, the monarchy said that this little fledgling republic would never last, because they said as soon as these voters figure out they can vote themselves the dole, they'll trade their liberty for security. And I want you to know, for nearly 200 years we had a good run. We didn't do that. And now I want to show you how bipartisan I am, because when the last administration opened the door, the administration that said they believed in freedom, and they bailed out Wall Street and they bailed out banks who had made deplorable, unconscionable decisions, they were saying to the rest of us, we cannot tolerate the risk of freedom when it's our rich buddies. And they opened door for the other government, the one we have now, to make the vast assault that we have on freedom that's going on today. The real price of freedom that too many Americans seem unwilling to pay is risk. Freedom without risk is not freedom, for it either means that you have choices that don't make a difference, or that you're programmed ahead of time to make the right ones. Real freedom means that I have the freedom to jump off a building, but I know if I do, I risk losing my freedom in my life. Real freedom means that I can rob a bank, but I know if I do, I risk getting shot or losing my freedom to go into prison. Real freedom means I can live for a while on my credit cards, but I risk becoming the lender's slave, or the debtor becomes the lender's slave. And finally, real freedom means if we have the idea and the stamina to save up enough money to start a business, we can. But we risk not only making the wrong choices, we risk through personal misfortune or bad luck or hard times losing all of our labor and all of what we've done, because freedom always has risk. In a free society, the government's job is infrastructure and referee. Infrastructure means having the basic bones of society. It means having a standing army and roads and communications and the basic services necessary for social intercourse. Referee means that you have to have enforcement of rules that keep an equal playing field and that keep the strong from abusing the rich. But when the government moves out of this role of referee and begins to reward all of its cronies with tax exemptions and huge sums of money, when they begin trying to take over a whole medical industry that's a sixth of the economy, when they do this, they're no longer the referee, they're a player. Now I want to ask you a question, and I want your answer. How many of you trust a referee who's already put their money on who's going to win in a game? That is how absurd the present situation is. The threat to freedom by government expansion, my friends, the threat to freedom can be explained in a way anybody can understand it, in a way a young person can understand it. How many of you all know that as long as you live under your parents' roof, you follow your parents' rules? That's how it was at my house, and it ought to be at yours. Let me tell you, it's the same with citizens and their government. Whatever the government subsidizes, it controls. Only there's this difference. Parents love their kids, and an impersonal government has no concern for the people over who it rules. My last part here. The growing numbers of Americans wanting to trade their freedom for security, whether through bailouts or massive entitlements like this health care, testifies to their loss of hope in the American dream. These folks either have a government job or a government giveaway already, or else they've given up thinking they can do it on their own. Here it is, folks. The paradox of freedom is that a free people can give their freedom away. Yet those who trade freedom for security will inevitably lose both, whereas those who cling to freedom with all their might will not only keep their freedom, but have more security. Why? I'll tell you, because a free people are always more energetic, more productive, more resourceful, more capable of creating wealth than a people who are slaves. Friends, freedom is always the best choice. For as a free people, we will always take care of ourselves better than a nanny state. Wake up, brothers and sisters, and join me and all those who are willing to fight for freedom. Thank you.